Hey there, it is Monday, February the 7th. It is a cold and wet day outside. Kind of miserable if you ask me. First off, let me apologize on the lack of content over the last few weeks. A lot has been going on. My daughter was sick for a little bit. My workload has doubled and we did suffer a loss in the family. With that said, I do plan on being back to making videos regularly, though right now I don't think I can maintain the 2 videos a week as previously mentioned. So I am going to aim for 1 video a week. That way I can at least keep content coming out, keep you guys happy, as I do love doing these. With that said, priorities do take, well, priority, and I have to take care of them. So now that that's out of the way, let's get into the video. So today's video is about Grails. Holy Grails, if you will. What do they mean? What defines a Grail? We're going to get into that. Now, I do want to mention that this is somewhat of a controversial subject, as everybody has their own definition of a Grail. The term itself in the collecting world is kind of ambiguous. It can mean anything from something that costs as much as a house to something that just meant a whole lot to you as a kid that maybe you lost and thought you'll never find again. And we're going to cover all these. We're going to touch on this. I did put out some fillers on a couple of Facebook pages, reached out to the community to try to get an idea on what everybody thought when they heard the term Grail. And we're going to touch on that, and I'm going to showcase some things in here that may or may not be considered Grails. To me, some of them are, and there are various reasons on why I say that. So that's going to be the topic of today's video. Stick around. Now, if you were a 70s or 80s child, then when you think of Grail, you think of something that is obtainable by the use of your wits and a trusty whip, or something that's being protected by a vicious rabbit that you need to take care of with a holy hand grenade. This is a different kind of Grail. This is a plastic Grail. This is something that might belong in a museum, but is better suited in your collection. It could be a prototype, a one-of-a-kind, something autographed, something that meant something great to you, something that's impossible to find, something that's out of print, something that has a significant story behind it that speaks to you as an individual. Alright, so I reached out to the toy community through Facebook in a post that basically says, when you see or hear the term Grail or Holy Grail in collecting, what do you think of? What comes to mind? Got a lot of replies, over 50 actually. So I'm going to read off a few of them. We'll talk about them. Brad M says, Grails are items that you search for an extremely long time, the top tier of your collection, things that hardly anybody else owns. They have history. That to me is a Grail. It's understandable. You know, if there's something that you've been wanting to top off your collection, say it's the last figure you need to complete that run and you just can't find it anywhere. And then finally, boom, you get your hands on it. It's yours. You have secured it. Now you finish that line. You've marked it. You're done. I could get that. So, you know, and a lot of times that does kind of coincide with probably the more valuable or the rarer of those lines. So for like Star Wars, you're talking, you know, some of the last 17 figures. They're just harder to get because the production level on the last wave of a run are just considerably lower than, say, the beginning and the middle stages. Richard D says, Grails are expensive, usually hard to find items. That's 2 people that are basically saying hard to find. They are rare and valuable. I would not think that just because an item has sentimental value, it is a Grail. And that's, you know, that's a fair opinion to have. A lot of people do attribute Grails to cost and rarity. This, you know, just the ability to get them, whether or not there's anything even out there, or if it's just so dang expensive, you can't really afford it. So Max F says a true Grail is a single most desired book, comic, for their personal collection regardless of its value or scarcity. So to him, if you're a big fan of Dazzler or Jubilee or somebody like that, and that's your collecting focus, then your Grail is probably going to be their first appearance. Might not be the most expensive book out there, but to him, the value doesn't determine it. It's more a personal relation. Though I would imagine most people want the rare, valuable stuff and can find the common stuff easily enough, ending the hunt for the Grail. It's a comic the collector would never want to sell or trade. So yeah, if you're a big fan of Jubilee, you found the first appearance of Jubilee, you're probably not going to want to sell it. You're going to hold on to it. It might not be a Grail to 99.9% of other people out there, but if it's a Grail to you, it's a personal thing. So to him, it's not necessarily about rarity or scarcity. It's more personal. Ty D says, for me, a Grail is a toy that I would only see in the JCPenney or Sears catalog as a kid, but I knew my parents couldn't afford to buy for me. And being able to buy that toy now in its completeness, no matter the price, that's my Grails. So to him, it's a personal, sentimental thing. It's as a kid, hey, I couldn't get all the stuff that I circled in that Sears catalog, and now I got nobody to tell me I can't. I'm an adult with an adult-sized wallet and bank account, and I'm going to go find them. And I get it. You know, I've got something in my collection that I kind of consider a Grail that came straight from a Sears catalog. And it was definitely something I wanted as a kid, so I feel him on that point. Tyler H. says, I think it's personal and not always associated with value. So we've got about 4 and 4 in terms, or 3 and 4 in terms of if it's personal, sentimental, and then if it's value. I think it's pieces that are hard to get no matter how much you may want to spend. My 2 Grails for over a decade were the prototype for the Midnight Mike Palco Thriller knockoff. It's a one-of-a-kind, and when I finally got it, it was under $150. And a Glasslight Michael Knight with card back, which I finally got for the $350 range, I believe. But both of these things were items that even if I had thousands to throw at them, I simply couldn't just buy them because money is only one definer. True. It doesn't matter how much it is. If there's none out there, you can't get it. Or if there's some out there and they're just not being sold, you can't get it. So it doesn't matter how much you've got that you're willing to throw at it. Money's not the only defining factor. A Grail that costs $30K is a Grail because of prohibitive costs and not just scarcity, or it can be something that there's only one of. And the seller won't reply or sell, but it's only worth a small amount. So yeah, to a lot of people, money is one of the main obstacles. There are some people out there where money, not so much an obstacle, and more power to them. You know, everybody collects different ways. But guys like me, and it sounds like guys like this, money, yeah, that's a big definer on whether or not something is obtainable. And if that's what constitutes part of being a Grail, then there you have it. Now, here are a few examples of items that could be considered Grails for various reasons. Here we have a 1984 Generation 1 Transformers pre-rub Megatron with unapplied stickers, complete in box. Now, the fact that it's complete, the fact that it's got the box is in pretty good condition, probably a 7.5. The fact that all the styrofoam, all the inserts are there, that the stickers have never been applied, that the thing is may or may not have ever been even played with. That's what makes it kind of the centerpiece in my collection. Value-wise, you could put this anywhere from around $500 to $800 in value, depending on the day. I got this in a trade from a guy locally who I've dealt with many times, great guy to deal with. And this is a personal Grail for me. It is one of the centerpieces, if not the centerpiece, of my G1 Transformers collection. The fact that it's all there, it's got this nice UV protective acrylic case on it to help preserve it, to make sure that as long as I own it, it's not going to degrade any further. This, to me, is a Grail. And here we have Kenner Superpower Cyborg. What makes this item a Grail in my eyes is the fact that he was one of the last 10 figures made of the whole entire series. He was part of Wave 3. Now, a lot of collectors know that the initial waves of a figure line are usually the most popular. That's when the item or the cartoon or what have you is in its beginning phases, where it's super popular, everybody is all about it. And as time goes on and it starts to fade into obscurity, Well, the figures and stuff that come later in the game, they just don't produce near as many. So the fact that he's one of the last 10 figures made out of the Superpowers line as part of Wave 3 in 1986, his production count isn't near as high as those from the beginning, adds to his rarity. He is also fairly valuable in terms. I think he's the most valuable figure in the whole Kenner Superpowers lineup. That's saved for any kind of prototypes or anything like that. His estimated value right now is somewhere between $800 and $1,200 in this kind of condition. I acquired him from a toy show that was local, also from a local seller. When I bought him, he wasn't complete. He was mostly complete. He had the figure, his one main arm attachment, and one extra arm attachment on his back, and I had to acquire the third one at a later date from a different source to complete him. The fact that he's in such good condition in this age makes him a Grail to me. And for the next example, this figure's not valuable. It's not rare, not the figure itself. This is a $20 figure that can be bought at Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash, which is where I acquired it. Now, what makes this a Grail to me is it's a one-of-a-kind. What makes this one-of-a-kind is the fact that it's actually signed, not just by Kevin Smith, who signs a lot of his merchandise in his stores before you buy it. I think there's a couple dollar markup with his signature on it. I can't remember, so don't quote me on that. But it's the fact that it's signed from the entire Comic Book Men cast, including the late Robert Bruce. And the way I acquired that was I was actually invited to be a guest on Comic Book Men. I was an individual that sold an item on the show. It was, I think, Season 5, Episode 13, Hometown Heroes. I was called up there about a post I had on Instagram. They asked me if I wanted to sell something to the guys at Comic Book Men. I said, sure, why not? We drove up to Red Bank, New Jersey, filmed. It actually aired the same night that Negan first appeared on The Walking Dead. Same channel, 2 hours later on AMC. But while I was there, I made sure that whatever item I got, which I got Blunt Man and Chronic, and I got Blunt Man here signed by the entire cast. And what makes it even a little more special is a lot of people in the collecting world know that Robert Bruce, which was the toy collector, the toy specialist on that show, unfortunately passed away just a few weeks ago suddenly. And that's what makes that a Grail to me. Here we have a few more examples of items that I would consider to be Grails personally. First off, we have this Nintendo Rob, which is a standalone replacement version. This one is special because it's not sold as a bundle pack with the original Nintendo like most were. Also, this one doesn't come with all the parts and pieces. It comes with the NES Rob itself, comes with the instructions and a couple little pieces that go on it, and that's about it. The reason why I have this one listed up here is because of its scarcity. Now, you don't see this one pop up very often. Anytime I check eBay, there's only a 50-50 chance that I'll even see one on there. And if there is, they're asking some exorbitant price, like $2,000, $2,500. I don't even know. This one in particular still has the sticker on top that says Model, NESARO, Quantity 1, Sears Catalog 65902. So I can assume that this one was purchased through the Sears Catalog. I won this one in an auction at Goodwill back when Goodwill was still doing auctions. And fun fact, this item is the item that the director at Comic Book Men reached out to me on my Instagram, in which I actually went up to Comic Book Men and filmed an episode. Now, I know the one in the middle is a display. However, there's one figure in particular inside that I'm going to be discussing. That's the one right there in the middle. This one is what we call a Mickey Mouse Cobra Commander. It was one of the first ever Cobra Commander figures ever produced, and if I believe was mail away only. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. That's what I believe. What makes this one special is the fact that the logo on it, the Cobra logo, that's the insignia for Cobra itself, this one has the top of the head unattached to the body, and the eyes make it look like Mickey Mouse ears, hence the name Mickey Mouse Cobra Commander. Now, this figure is very hard to come by, especially in as good of condition as it's in. Oftentimes when you find them, the insignia is half rubbed off or mostly gone. It's also a straight arm version, which is indicative of the very first run of G.I. Joes before they had that swivel action battle grip technology implemented. Now, I've got this one put in a case that I made myself with other versions of Cobra Commander because I'm a fan of Cobra Commander, as you can see. This one I actually obtained in a legitimate barn find. I do appliance service work as my day job, and oftentimes when I'm out working, I'll talk to people about my collecting habits to help pass the time because I like to make conversation while I'm there, especially if they're standing over my shoulder or staying in the same room kind of watching me work, just to make things less awkward. So I always bring up my collecting because you never know. They might have something in a box in their basement that they're like, oh, you're interested in this? Let me go grab it for you. This was one of those cases. There was a repair done on a stove. The repair was going to be ballpark around $400, give or take. And when I talked about the collecting, the guy was like, oh man, I've got all my old childhood toys out in my shed in my backyard if you want to check them out. And I'm like, yeah, thinking we're going to be coming back at a later date. Well, no, we wound up going out there right after I fixed his oven. And he's pulling down these old dusty boxes. These boxes haven't been touched in, I know, 20 plus years. And they're just heaped in these boxes. And I'm talking to the guy and he's like, well, would you be interested in this stuff? I said, yeah. And this was years ago. So we wound up working out a deal where he got his repair completely free, and I went home with about 4 boxes of vintage toys of various lines. I found a little Nike shoebox in there, kid-sized Nike orange shoebox, and this guy was laying right in the middle of the pile on top inside that shoebox. When I opened up that shoebox and I flipped over that Cobra Commander and saw that logo on the chest, that's when I knew. That to me is a holy grail. The last item in this lineup is this Masters of the Universe Classics Skeletor. This is the first run, but what this figure is somewhat rare. It's not super scarce, but it's somewhat rare. It does have a pretty decent value on its own, but this one's got something special to it. It's actually signed by the voice actor of Skeletor, Alan Oppenheimer. That's why this one, I decided, would fit the term of a grail, because not only is it somewhat rare, and I'm using that loosely, it's probably not super rare, not relative to a lot of the other things that I'm showing off, because I'm sure they made hundreds of thousands of these. But this figure in itself holds value. The fact that it's actually signed by the voice actor of Cobra. The fact that it's actually signed by the voice actor of Skeletor is what makes it a grail for me. You're still here? What are you doing? Like my video, subscribe to my channel, and help this poor toy collector achieve his dream of not being such a poor toy collector. Thanks.